Hello, mighty companions. I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. I'm Earl Purdy, and we're going to be talking about how the part of us that doesn't know the truth all the time and doesn't practice the truth and loving ourselves like we should all the time, the ego, the part of us that can have the fear and the anger and the guilt, how it uses guilt. In other words, how the regular person uses guilt. And how you can get beyond that and how you can use it to your advantage, how you can see it differently. So I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles. Let me get this up. It's always good to see my mighty companions online and in the room. Okay, here we go. You know, this is a very, 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 very high-tech operation. This is our theme song. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Good to see you. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Listen to the words. I'm not a victim of my mom. I'm not a victim of my pa. I'm not a victim of events, circumstance at all. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. I'm not a victim of the future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that really doesn't last. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Now remember, you don't need to believe the ideas. You don't need to believe the ideas. You don't have to believe the ideas. You don't need to believe the ideas. Do you know that you do not have to accept the ideas? You do not have to accept the ideas. You don't even have to welcome the ideas. You don't even have to welcome the ideas. You don't have to welcome the ideas. Yeah. I'm not a victim of the North. I'm not a victim of the South. Not a victim of anything except what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. That includes the good stuff. Come out now. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Yes. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Do you know that some of the things I say you might find hard to believe? Some of the things I say you might find hard to believe. You might go, that's hard to believe. You might actually say, that's hard to believe. I may say some things that startle you. You may hear some things from A Course in Miracles that you flat don't like or you don't agree with. That's okay. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. Oh yeah. Woo! 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 All right, you're not throwing the dirt on me yet. All right. Yes. Woo! I'd like to ask you to just take a deep breath for a minute. Allow yourself to get centered. And I know even though you have a lot of things and you're very important and you got a lot of things you got to do, that I want to ask you to just take a minute to be present. Feel your body, how it feels wherever you are right now. Pay attention to the temperature around you. When you settle into your physical body, it can bring you right into the present moment. Just taking the time to become conscious of your surroundings, whatever you're hearing right now. Because we're going to talk about something that the Course in Miracles teaches us: the soul cause of pain in any form, even though we might not recognize it. Thank you for coming. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. These are the guidelines that come straight from the Course in Miracles itself. The Course in Miracles has its own way of being taught and learned. And so these are the attitudes that it suggests anybody have who really wants to be able to benefit from it at all. Would you like to benefit from this at all?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here's the attitudes that would allow that to happen real easy. It says in the book, remember only this. You don't have to believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You don't have to accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. You don't have to welcome it. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept it. Then it says some of the ideas you may actively resist. You might go, hell no. Some of the ideas you may resist. 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 Some of the ideas. Did I say you may resist some of the ideas? You may resist some of the ideas. So if you find yourself resisting, remember Earl said, Rod said, the Course said. Because I didn't write it, so I feel no need to defend it. Okay, that's my job. My job is to be as good a clearer conduit and messenger of love as I possibly can. So I'd much rather have love come through me to you that you feel than any of the intellectual ideas or concepts that I'm going to share. That's what's needed in the world today. That's what's needed in the world today. Love is what's needed in the world today. Loving each other, joining with each other. That's what's needed in the world today. That's the answer. That's the answer. Everything else is about what is it that I need to learn that would allow me to undo and get rid of every block to being able to express that love or to know that love. That's the work. The work is getting rid of everything in my mind that keeps me from letting that love, that truth come through me to you. So the Course says next, it says some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Others may seem to be quite startling. Some of the things might be startling. Some of the things we hear might be startling. You're not being asked to judge the ideas at all. Take the robes off. Okay, take the robes off. Take the robes off. Take the robes off. I'm not pleading my case in front of the Supreme Court. All right, okay. The truth of what you're saying has nothing to do with whether anybody else agrees with it, accepts it, or believes it. I'll say it again. The truth of something doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you necessarily believe it. Something can be true that you don't believe. Something can be true that you don't believe. And what is true is going to be true whether you believe it or not. That's what's the cool thing about the truth. The mood that I've used this example many times. The mood I was in this morning when I woke up doesn't have anything to do with affecting the laws of gravity. The laws of gravity are going to operate if I'm in a good mood, and the laws of gravity are going to operate no matter what kind of mood I'm in. So something that's true has nothing to do with how you feel about it. Keep on saying that, right? Because the Course says that. So you're not being asked to judge and analyze at all. So I don't analyze the Course in Miracles. I don't sit around and everybody try to get their perception of what it's saying and break it down in little pieces and analyze it, because almost every sentence it'll say, blah, 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 blah. This means, and then it'll say, blah, 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 but that's because. So it's like giving everyone the answer, but the Course says the biggest challenge that we have to learning is memory. That we don't remember. There's a connection between learning and remembering. Learning and remembering. And if you want to change your mind about something, it's all about, can you repeat it to yourself enough times that you accept it as true? Because everything you believe, you just accepted it at some point. And usually what people have accepted the most are the things they heard the most. So if you had an emotionally, mentally abusive parent who's calling for love, and who was saying negative things to you, and they said it enough times, it's a good possibility that there's a part of you that might have bought into that and somehow believe something is lacking and missing in you. Why? Because you heard it over and over and over and over and over. So in the Course in Miracles, more than any other term, it uses the word remember. Remember, hundreds of times. Or it'll say, don't forget. Don't forget. But there's nowhere in the book where it says, analyze this. As a matter of fact, it says, if you analyze it, it's going to destroy the meaning of what it's trying to say to you. So actually, it's a good way not to understand what it's saying. So I thought that was interesting. And one more thing, it says if you would like these ideas to have meaning to you, do you know that there's something radical you could do? If you like these ideas to have meaning for you, you could use them. I thought you all looked like y'all pretty sharp cookies, so I had the feeling I could say that. I believe, you know. I knew there was a trick to this Course in Miracles stuff. I knew it was a trick, you know. You know, we're a lot like somebody that's going to build a house. And they go to the hardware store and they get all the, the hammer and the nails and the screwdriver, everything, then they drop it on the ground. And then they wait for the house to be built. I got the wood, I got the nails. See that?
And then when it's not built, we come and see you.
No, you got to love yourself a lot more. Now what happens is the average person in this analogy says, oh my God, the house isn't being built. And they go back to the hardware store and get some more nails and hammers and screwdrivers. That's us jumping around from teaching to teaching, thing to thing, all the time, and then not doing what it's saying, and then expecting the result that it's promising. So then you come to the Course, you listen to it, for instance, but you don't apply any of the ideas, right? And then at the same time, a person might go, well, I've been coming to the Course and listening to the Course, but my life hasn't changed. You know, reading the recipe book doesn't bake the cake. But reading the recipe book is an important part, right? So I am reading the recipe book to you. My job is to be a messenger of what the recipe book is saying. There's only one difference between a messenger of God or truth or love, according to the Course, and a regular messenger, is that a messenger of truth, a messenger of love, accepts the message for themselves first. So when it's talking about forgiving, that's what I need to do. If it's talking about love, that's what I need to be more loving. See, and whatever this message is saying, I have to accept it for me also. And it's also for you. So that's the difference. When the postal carrier comes to your door and leave a message or a letter for you, they don't stick around to see what your reaction was to that letter you got. Right? They just give it to you. They don't feel any responsibility for your reaction, right? So we're going to be on page 83. So it says the use of the ideas will give the ideas meaning to you. Do you know the use of the ideas will show you that they're true? And the Course in Miracles is working with your mind. It's working with your thoughts. It's working with your perception. So everything that I'm saying applies to perception. Because the way you perceive things, the way you interpret things, which is the same as saying the way you perceive things is the way you interpret things, don't you know that your interpretation of things causes the way you feel? The way you're looking at something causes the way you feel. Agreed?
Yes.
Right? Okay, so you just heard how to be in total control of your emotions. You need to be telling yourself what will give you the response of joy. and the response of peace, because that's where your feelings are coming from. Your feelings are coming from the meaning that you're giving. Okay, so that's a perceptual shift. Notice that I didn't say anything about you just, get yourself a new house, a new car, $5 million in the bank account. None of those things are just, according to the Course, those things are just neutral things. They're not bad, they're not good, they're just neutral. You'll make that mean whatever it means to you, but they don't guarantee the way you feel. I don't feel good. My car doesn't make me feel good. I make myself feel good about my new car.
Amen.
I don't just get mad at you, I make myself mad at you.
Amen.
I love it.
See, that's how I correct any perception. I go, I made it, I did it, and now it's correct. You want to correct anything quickly? Just say, I made it, I did it, and now you're saying it correctly. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Well, you're the one that's giving everything that's happening to you all the meaning that it's having for you. You have a choice of what you could be telling yourself. So you could tell yourself something different and have a totally different response. And nothing has to change on the outside for you to do that. But the stuff will change on the outside to give you the pressure to get you to go ahead and do it if you've been slacking around. What do you mean, Earl? I'm saying that if you don't internally choose to make a change, life will externally present you with what appears to be situations that force you to make that change. Because that which loves you is tired of your mess. It wants to give you unlimited joy, unlimited light, unlimited joy, unlimited love, unlimited happiness, unlimited freedom. You're the one that's getting in the way by the things that you think based on what you learned in the past. Right? Okay. So now let me see if I can set this up. I think it's one of those situations where one picture is worth 1,000 words. Sometimes I feel like especially at my age now, I feel like a 70-watt fuse that's got like 3,000 watts trying to come through me. I don't know if any of y'all can relate to what I'm saying, but what I am is so much bigger than my body. And so sometimes trying to channel my source energy through this body can be a little grueling. Because it's all a trick. My pain and my pleasure is actually a trick. It's a trick that's trying to convince me that I'm only a body. My pain is trying to convince me I'm a body. Oh my goodness, my back. I must be a body. I feel that pain, buddy. Or somebody's giving me a great neck massage, the physical pleasure that I like. And I go, ooh, man, woo, that feels so good. I must be a body. Pleasure and pain has the same purpose, to make you think you're a body. But you're not. You're a spiritual being having a human experience who's forgotten who they are, who's on a journey of remembering together. And in the meantime, we get sidetracked by our special desires and special people who we sometimes use to delay us when they could be used to speed us up, depending on the purpose of the relationship we have with them. So we're talking about how the regular kind of person uses guilt. How the fearful, angry mind, the mind that thinks it's separate, uses guilt. Now, we left off in last episode, we're going to start at paragraph 3, chapter 5, section 5, paragraph 3, page 84. Page 84 in the text. The Course in Miracles, Foundation for Inner Peace text. 85. Okay, everybody with me. I'm the Divine Repetition Coach. I'm the Divine Remembering Teacher. My job is to repeat it and help us remember it and hear what it's saying. Okay? Now, this is me, my true self, right? This is the part of me that believes that it's separate, the part of me that believes that it's on its own, The part of me that thinks it could be the victim, part of you that thinks it could be the victim, the part of you that thinks it's a body that could die one day, the part of you that thinks you go through things sometimes that nobody else is going through, the you that gets depressed sometimes, and then the you that has fun and has joy and has pleasure, and does that kind of stuff. It's the you that thinks you're a human being. The Course says the idea of fear and separation, the idea that I'm separate from you and you're separate from me. Does everybody have one of those kind of identities? Oh, looks like it right now. Okay, so that's this. Then there's the real me, the divine me, the truth me, what the Course would call the Christ self, the true self, the love self. And what I'm doing is the one that's choosing whether I'm going to listen to the fear and the separation in me, or I'm going to listen to this other side of me, which is the same side, the loving side, the divine side of my mind, the part of my mind that is free and joyful and knows its abundance and has no fear. It's basically the me that's all love. That's the you that's all love. Now, if you pay attention to what I'm saying today, it could be a major milestone in your being able to benefit through what the Course is saying. Because you don't have to believe it. Okay, so the ego is the part of the mind that believes in division. So I'll call this part of me for this demonstration Earl. Earl is the part of the mind that believes in division. I believe in division. I believe in division. I believe that we're all separate. I'm the me that believes in separation. Okay, that's who this one you're talking to. The one that thinks he has a social security number, got to look out for itself, and one that just renting Denver still going up. Okay, that one. The one that goes to the gas pump and go, oh my God, what a great opportunity to give. The Course says paying is giving. Paying is giving. So every time I pay something, I always go paying is giving. Because he says if you see it as giving, you kick in the law of giving and receiving. And it comes back greater than you gave it, because you're not looking at it as losing, you're looking at it as giving. But if you're giving it from a place of sacrifice, then you're giving it from a place of I don't have enough and I'm losing. And so you just absolutely reproduce that in your perception. So if you look at paying as, oh my God, I used to feel that way about my credit cards, right? It's like I would get mad at them for sending me a bill to pay for something I bought, to pay them back for something I bought. And then I would treat the credit card company like they were the biggest, most evil, people that ever lived. And they're the people who had faith in my future financial potential, enough to give me the credit card because they thought I'd have the money in the future to pay them back. And I'm acting like they're the enemy. Just like we look at paying as losing. But I couldn't pay you if I didn't have it. So giving is proof that I have it. So it's reinforcing the idea that I have all that I need. And what did I do? All you heard me do was give you other ways of looking at it. This very same thing, did I not? Right, and notice how one way I told you, you laughed and felt joy about, and then the first way you all could relate. Oh, yeah, I paid a credit card. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, that's what the Course in Miracles calls the ego. That's what that's the Course in Miracles definition of the ego. It's Earl, the Earl that thinks he's separate and on his own. Then so Earl believes in division. Then he goes, how could part of God detach itself without believing it's attacking God? So how could part of love detach itself without believing that you're hurting love or you could be hurt by love? So one of the surefire ways you don't know what love is what? When you tell yourself you can be hurt by love, or that love can hurt you. Love can't hurt. Love cannot hurt. Love cannot hurt. Love cannot hurt. Love cannot hurt. I know you have proof. I know you have proof. But the Course in Miracles will say, no, you have proof of fear. What hurt you was fear. What hurt you was there was some level of separation and misperception going down. It wasn't love that hurt you. It was the way that you were, they were, you all were looking at it at that time. So you got, the Course is basically saying you can't keep mixing love and fear together and be able to tell the difference between them. You can't say love has guilt in it and guilt has love in it. Or love had I attacked you and went off on you because I loved you. Of course, Miracle said that's crazy. You'll never be able to tell the difference between two things that are both the same. They mix together, they're the same. So he says, so I got the audacity to get you to talk in terms of absolutes in a way that's going to drive the part of you that thinks you're separate, crazy. Because you see, selfish Earl, who doesn't really know how to give and love, and who's insecure, so therefore wants everybody's love and attention for himself. Okay? He's not going to like love because love is inclusive and is equally given to all. So love, the Course in Miracles says, I don't know how to break this to you, Earl, but you're about to teach a curriculum that scares the hell out of most people that hears it. That what you're saying is going to be threatening to the part of the mind that believes in guilt and anger and attack and unforgiveness. The person that's not ready to forgive is not going to jump up and down to listen to a teaching that's talking about forgiveness. But they're going to be thinking of every reason why what you're saying is wrong and untrue, because they're not ready to forgive yet. So they got to keep remembering the justification for not forgiving by constantly looking back at the past and remembering what you thought happened. So you are always living in the past. So you're using right now to interpret it in past terms. So instead of being in the present that freed you from everything you went through in the past, because in this moment you're free of it, what we do is use this moment to recall it and then project it into the future and meet it again. We see the present moment as just a brief transition between the past and the future, not something that's there all the time, according to the Course. I mean, I'm really not this brilliant. I remembered this because that's what it says I needed to do to have the miracles of love that it promised me I would have. Was all I had to do was read the book so I could deal with the things that Spirit was going to do for me that was more than I could do for myself and still maintain my sanity. This book is only preparing you to handle the good stuff that you deserve that's going to come to you in spite of how you feel about yourself. That which loves you too much to let you thinking you deserve something qualify you as to whether or not you deserve it. That's too slow. I want to give you love and happiness right now. You still think you've done something that you got to punish yourself for, you feel insecure about, so you're not going to let yourself have some joy right now. Well, guess what? I'm going to treat you just like I would treat a good friend of mine that will sleep on the sofa. They'll sleep. I'm going to protect them while they're asleep, and I'm not going to pop them upside the head. You know what I'm saying? So there's a part of us that is loving us and is willing to care for us and guide us and take care of us, the universe, Spirit, despite how you feel about yourself. But there's a part of your mind that thinks, he says, that thinks you're separate from love and separate from God. He says, now we spoke of the authority problem, because what is the authority problem? He said, well, that's based on the idea that you think you could actually overthrow your creator. You're having a hard time paying your bill, but you can overthrow God. I'm more powerful than the Creator. And so the Course says, there's a part of you that believes that somehow or another that's what you did. You disobeyed, and so there's a part of you that you think is you that's not really you. So your ego believes that this is what you did, because your ego believes, how can I say it? Sometimes Earl thinks that when this book is talking about who I really am, I think it's talking about me. And the book is saying, no, Earl is an illusion. You are real, but Earl is an illusion. What? You are real, but whatever your name is, and that identity around that one, it's an illusion. It's not real. And you go, what do you mean? It's an idea. It's a concept that you have. It's a constantly changing concept of yourself that you've been having your whole life. And so therefore it must not be real, because it's just the way you keep seeing yourself. In other words, the way you saw yourself 10 years ago is probably not the way you see yourself right now. But that person 10 years ago thought that was the real self. Just like you sitting up here thinking this one is. I know the rest of them wasn't my real self. That, I've changed from them. But this one just sitting in front of you today, this is the real one. Now, 10 years from now, you'll be saying you couldn't imagine the one that's sitting up here right now. So what I'm saying is, what you think is yourself is just your concept of yourself and your idea of yourself, and that's constantly changing. And so that's not really who you are. Who you are is whoever chose to have that concept in the first place. Who you are is the chooser. Who you are is the one that is the witness. And all of us know about the witness. You know you have a witness. You know there's a part of you that's watching everything you do. And most of the time, one of the boys is telling you, "You crazy as hell." What did you do that again for? What is wrong with you? What is your problem? You just never know. If you never do it right, and if it's going good right now, something's going to go wrong. It's not going to last. You can't trust them people. You know you can't trust them people. The Baptists can't trust the Anabaptists, and the Anabaptists can't trust the Baptists, and the black folk can't trust the white folk, and the Jewish folk can't trust the Russian folk, and we can't trust the Russian folk. And that's the part of us that believes in division. That's the part of us that's running the world. That's why it's so chaotic. So the Course in Miracles says there's another you. There's a real you. There's a real you. There's a real you. And your real self is eternal, it's loving, it's free, it's light, it's unlimited. It's what you really are. It's awareness, it's consciousness, it's spirit. But you are identifying, I'm identifying with the separate self. I'm identifying with Earl that has the fear and the separation and sometimes still thinks he's a victim and is out here trying to make it on his own. And so what the Course is trying to do is get me to side with this one over here that totally got his act together and remembers his connection to you and source and everything else, and nothing can hurt it, and it's joyful all the time, and that joy and that love only expands, and it never ends, and it never attacks anybody for anything, and never feels no kind of guilt any kind of way, and is happy. That means that this book keeps telling me, that's the real you. You're all hooked up with the imposter, the phony you, the one that believes in separation and guilt, and then you hanging out with some more separate selves who also believe the same thing. Then y'all come up with, he says, meaningless, ridiculous rules y'all call laws. He says, then you turn around and attribute those to me. Thanks a lot. That's what Spirit is. Of course, it's so funny. And then you never, I believe, Spirit said, you never pause to ask me what I'm about. You be too busy making up an identity for God. So you make up an identity for God. You say what God is like. He says, then you turn around and say, God must be wrong if God doesn't agree. That's deep. In other words, you think something about me, I tell you that that's absolutely not true, and then you tell me I'm the one who's wrong. But you're the one making up the idea about me. I'm the me you making the idea up about. You might want to see what I'm thinking. So the Course says we make up an ego for everybody we know, and we make up an ego for ourselves, and that's our opinion of the other person. Whatever you see is your opinion of the other person, the way you're seeing the other person. That's the ego, the concept you made up for them. Like if I believe you are selfish, and that's my mind, that's the ego I made up for you, is that you are selfish. You may not be selfish at all, but I'm looking at you from that perspective. So I'm going to deal with you like you're selfish. And never realize that I'm just responding to my own interpretations of you. And that's what you're doing with everybody in your life. You are responding to your interpretations that you're giving them in any given moment. You're responding right now to the interpretation and meaning you're giving me in this moment. We can prove this right here now. You're doing it right now. It's called however you're seeing Earl Purdy in this moment and whatever your perception of him is and the meanings that you've been giving what he's saying. That is you making up an ego or a personality, a separate self for me. And one of the ways you know it's not real is you can change your mind about a person without ever talking to them. You can be mad at them in your mind, and then you can go, well, maybe I'm not right about that. Maybe they're not such a bad person. Then you see them as good in your mind, and then the next time you see them, you go, oh, I forgive you. Yeah, the whole thing was in your mind. You saw them as a problem in your mind, and you fixed it in your mind. What I'm telling you is you are just responding to your interpretations and meanings that you're giving to everything around you. 100% of the time, 24 hours a day, and everybody else is too. And the Course is saying you all got some screwed up meanings that y'all are giving to things that are based on separation and fear and guilt. And that's in one part of your mind. And then you got another part of your mind, we talk to you like we're separate since that's what we think we are. Nothing really is, but I'm going to talk to you like it's separate. So then there's another part of you that believes in guilt and that believes in attack and that believes in projection and that believes, that you're not connected. And so the Course is saying, but that's not you. You are totally loving. You are totally sane. You are totally powerful. You are okay. You are more than okay. You are whole. You're complete. You are perfect. But I just see this one bow down. Okay. I just see to me that that's not enough, that I feel separate and afraid. And I feel guilty sometimes, and I feel like things don't go right for me, and stuff like that. That's the one I see, where the Course in Miracles says, I'm going to teach you how to tell the difference between the two, and I'm also going to show you how to allow yourself to be transported to the loving you. Because I'm not going to move at your speed, you're too slow. So what I'm going to teach you is how to let yourself be helped. That's what the Course said. I'm going to teach you how to let yourself be helped. That's a big call for God, y'all are. Y'all actually have to have something teach y'all to let yourself be helped. He said, because what loves you will always treat you better than how you're treating yourself when you're not treating yourself right. And God, our Creator, loves us. And people go, well, why doesn't it do more of a direct intervention? Well, it's talking to us all the time through a million different teachings and ways and people. He says, but God's voice is not any louder than your willingness to listen. If I'm not willing to listen to this, then it's not going to be loud to me, especially if I'm snoring in the sleep about to fall out on the eye. I hear you, Purdy. Well, obviously, my voice isn't very loud to that person. See, my voice is no louder than a person's willingness to listen. Nobody's paying any more attention to me than those who really want to hear what I got to say. That's who's going to be tuned in. So it's easy to tell. So the Course then says, whenever you respond, how can you tell when you are responding to the voice that's the wrong voice, the ego? He says, well, I'm going to tell you. Would you like to know? When you're responding to the wrong voice, you're going to experience guilt. What? Anytime you're listening to the wrong voice, you'll know it because you'll feel guilty. Or you will feel angry. The Course says guilt and anger are the same thing, really. So, it actually says we only have two emotions and everything else is just different forms of those two emotions. So all the happy stuff, the good stuff you can think of, those are expressions of love, right? And then everything that we look at as fear, upset, he says that's an expression of fear. So the Course is telling us, he said, so how can you tell when you're listening to the right voice? How can you tell when you're listening to the right voice? When you're listening to the right voice, you feel joy. You feel light. You feel lighter. You feel better. This is so simple, it'll be the hardest thing you ever heard. Because the Course in Miracles teaches that simplicity is very difficult for twisted minds. What? Simplicity is very difficult for twisted minds. That's what it said in the book. I felt kind of insulted. Wait a minute, Like, wait a minute, that ain't cool. He says we love complication because complication is the best excuse in the world to not do something.
That's true.
It's too complicated.
That's why nobody likes calculus.
It's just too complicated, right? And so it says complexity is the smoke screen. How do you put it? It's the smoke screen to cover the simplicity, the profound simplicity of things. Woo! God, this is just one paragraph. I call this the cheesecake of truth. With the Course in Miracles, you got to nibble it. You can't, anybody tell me they read 3 pages right away. I said, okay, all right, sure. So you just proved you can read. Comprehension, acceptance, that's a whole different thing. Right, I'm not impressed that you could read. Did you hear anything? Like, for instance, what have I heard today? That there's a part of my mind that believes in separation and there's a part of my mind that believes in division. That there's a part of me that thinks it's separate from you, and I identify with that part that thinks I'm separate from you. Wow, that's called the ego. And so when I'm listening to the part of me that has fear and anger and grievances, that's the ego. That's the wrong voice. He says you can tell because when you're listening to the voice that's not coming from love and you're listening to the voice that doesn't come from truth, you'll know it because you'll feel guilty. It can't get much simpler than that. Now, only thing that guilt does is guarantee you're going to do it again.
That's true.
Tell me what you feel guilty about and I'll tell you what you're going to do again. I was able to discipline myself more on every level, including the physical level, when I realized through the Course that I was completely innocent in how I expressed myself in a loving way. So once I was free of the guilt, nothing controlled me anymore. The minute the guilt left, the control came back. So I noticed that the more that I felt innocent, the less I didn't have control over myself, because I knew it was okay. And I was innocent no matter what I chose to do. I just had one rule: I didn't want it to be in the form of attack. Keeping it simple. He says a real teacher of God has two qualities. They're helpful, and then he says you can't be helpful without being harmless. You're not helpful if you're if you're harmful, you're not helpful. Well, what would be the Course in Miracles definition of harmful? He says, well, somebody that's always attacking others. Someone that's always attacking. You're mad and you're going off on somebody about one thing or another, and trying to make them feel guilty about what they're doing. That's attacking them. And so the Course says a mind that's afraid is a mind that attacks, because a mind that's afraid feels like it could be hurt in any moment, so it makes it real suspicious. And they think it's by attacking is how you make yourself safe. So then it becomes who can attack the best. That's who's going to make us the safest, right? You know, if Russia can destroy the world with nuclear weapons 30,000 times over, and if America can destroy the world 40,000 times over, we won. See the insanity of that premise. Who can attack the best is going to be the one that makes everybody safe. So the Course says, if you identify with the wrong part of yourself, you're going to see yourself as guilty. And you'll know that when you're responding to the wrong mind in you, you're going to experience guilt. So don't get out of your head. When you're listening to the wrong voice, you're going to feel guilt. That doesn't mean the Course says that we're not, our mistakes cannot be corrected. It's not saying you're going to be a sociopath. It's saying that whatever that needs to be fixed in you, corrected in you, Spirit is going to help you do that. But you don't need to feel guilty about it. What you want to do is have it corrected. Because it's the guilt. People who don't love themselves the way they should, they do things to make themselves feel guilty. People who, when you don't love yourself and you don't think you deserve love, then there's some part of you that believes you deserve punishment for that you don't deserve good stuff. So the minute that you feel guilty, you're requesting punishment, unless you're re-perceiving what it is. Because good people think the more guilt I feel, the better person I am. So if I can suffer, that makes me a better person too. So the Course in Miracles is saying, when you're listening to that voice, you're listening to the wrong voice. You're listening to the wrong voice because now you're going to become afraid of punishment. If you feel guilty, you think something bad might happen to you. And he says, so your ego is, he says right here, the ego is quite literally a fearful thought. So if you want a definition of the ego, it's a fearful thought. It's a fearful thought, a fearful mind, a fearful thought. So whenever you're reading the Course in Miracles and it says ego, you could say fearful mind, fearful thought, or the part of my mind that thinks it's separate. Okay? Because this book is trying to teach you the difference between what's real and what's not real, so that you'll stop hurting yourself, because it teaches that pain comes from deceiving yourself. So whenever I go through pain, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain, the first thing I tell myself is I'm deceiving myself about something. I'm hurting right now because I fooled myself about something again. I deceived myself again. So pain, the Course says, that's nature's way of letting you know you're fooling yourself about something. You're deceiving yourself about something. So if you're feeling guilty, that's another way of letting you know that you're listening to your fearful voice, your separate voice, the wrong voice, because the right voice is going to so lovingly correct everything, and it says it even remove the consequences of it, and everybody involved will be so at peace that you couldn't possibly feel guilty, because there's no witness that you've hurt anybody. See, when I'm sitting around in front of you all the time, I'm looking like this. I'm witnessing back to you, you're guilty. That's all I'm doing, see? If you were different, I'd be happy. If you was really doing your job as a partner, I'd be feeling better right now. In other words, I'm witnessing to people what I think life is doing to me by the way I behave outwardly. So then you know if I'm feeling fear and anger and guilt, it's just saying consider that there might be another way for you to look at this that you're not using yet. And you don't even have to figure it out. You don't even have to figure out what the other way of looking at it is. I'll tell you. Recipe book. Recipe book. I'm reading the recipe book. Now, do you know the idea of attacking God? He says that's a ridiculous idea. The idea that you could attack love, the idea that you could attack love, or love could hurt you, or you could be hurt by love, he says, is a ridiculous idea. He says, but it's a ridiculous idea to the sane person. To the sane mind, it's ridiculous to think that you could attack God. That you could attack. Well, sane being knows you cannot attack love. Something that loves you, you can't even attack, and it can't attack you. He says, but don't forget there's a part of you that's not sane. he says it right here. The ego is quite literally a fearful thought. However ridiculous the idea of attacking love or God may be to the sane mind, it says, here we go, never forget. See, I told you, it always says, remember, never forget. Never forget what? Never forget that there's a part of you, a part of your mind, according to the Course, that is totally and completely insane. And when you forget that, you can get hurt. That's a little crazy in all of us. And you know it's there. You know it's that you that's sitting there looking real cooled out. And then you know it's that maniac. You know, I know you got it. I don't care whether you admit it or not. I know every one of y'all got the maniac. And you try to keep the maniac under control through the truth. And that's what the Course is saying. You can attack love, but there's a part of us that speaks for a delusional system. It says there's a part of you that speaks for a system that's not based on love and not based on truth. You all are adhering to a system of separation that's not based on unity and oneness and truth. And so there's a part of you that speaks for the fear, speaks for the guilt, and speaks for the victim consciousness. That takes the form of me telling everybody around me what life is doing to me right now. I've done that before. I've talked to people about what I thought was happening to me that's not fair. Anybody here ever done that? Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. That is a part of my mind. He said that's the part of your mind that's not sane. And so the part of your mind that's not sane speaks for all the justifications of fear, for fear and separation. It's going to come up with all reasons why I can't trust you. I got that part of my mind. Then it goes on to say, so listening to the wrong voice means you think it's possible to attack love. You think it's possible to lose love. You think it's possible to be hurt by love. Love will never hurt you. Love has never hurt you. Love will never hurt you. Love has never hurt you. Love doesn't hurt anybody. Love doesn't hurt anything. Love doesn't hurt. Love cannot hurt. Love cannot hurt. You cannot be hurt by love. Did I say love doesn't hurt? Love it doesn't hurt. You can't be hurt by love. You can't attack love. You can't attack love. You cannot attack love. Love never attacks. Love never attacks. I'm never going off on somebody in anger because I love them. I'm always doing it because in that moment I'm feeling some form of fear. You don't love me and you want to kill me. I'll finish this paragraph. And then the other thing I want to do. I'm so glad I know these classes are first and foremost for me. That most classes I've taught, I've been present. So every course, which is thousands, right, since I've been doing it 40 years, right? So that's thousands of classes in front of thousands of people. So that just showed you what a slow learner I am. Oh, I think I'm ready to do it now. Then people go, well, if it took you 40 years, you know, how long do you think it would take me? So they use it as an excuse, you know, not to do it, right? Because, oh, if Earl says he's been doing it for 40 years and he feels like he's just not really doing it, what hope is there for me when I just started? That's an excuse. That's just another excuse not to do your own work. But you don't know where I've come from. See, it's all relative. If you knew who I am now compared to who I was 40 years ago, then it would seem like it happened overnight in terms of the radical shift. It's all relative. It's all relative. So the Course is telling me that the ones you think that you have disobeyed God, or if you think that you got that old time programming that your creator was a punishing God and was out to get you for the things that you've done, which is what I heard as a child, then I'm going to have fear of retaliation. I think that if I'm disobeying God or disobeying what I think is the truth or disobeying, then I think I might have some retaliation happen. So the Course in Miracles says that's what happens when you're listening to the wrong voice. When you're listening to the wrong voice, you're going to feel guilt. You're going to feel like you are going to be punished. You are going to think you have somehow hurt somebody or attacked somebody, and that there's some type of retaliation that's coming your way. And if you're feeling that way, if you feel guilty, it says at some level you're feeling that way. But the problem with guilt, and the problem the Course says, is most of us are so deep into denial. It says we're so deep into denial that we're not even aware of how deep the levels of guilt and anger that we have, because they're so successfully repressed by us. And it says that's what makes this can make this difficult to teach, is because you're teaching people about beliefs that they have that they don't know they have. So their first impression is to go, well, I don't really feel any guilt. I'm not conscious of any anger inside of me. But then you talk to them 5 minutes and their life is chaos. Or they can point out 5 or 10 things that they wish were different, that they're unhappy about. Or tell you about some body stuff they're going through. See, that's their body trying to communicate to them that they have a lot of grievances that need to be forgiven and released and changed. But their denial tells them they don't have any of those feelings and qualities. So they have to meet them in their outer world as a reflection of what they're in denial about in their inner world. So your physical world is more of a reflection of your subconscious mind that you see, which is deep. So you mean everything I'm seeing in the world is something that's going on in my own mind that I don't even realize is there? Yeah. And so I'm telling you that you're looking at the world wrong. If all you feel is guilt, anger, and fear, that's your way of knowing that you're looking at the world through the wrong eyes. And that's why you see it. So instead of trying to change the world, change your glasses. Switch over to this side. Because there's a world that goes with the love side. It's more real than this one. That's based on the fear side. There are 2 worlds. The world based on fear and separation, and the world based on unity and oneness. And if you want to go into the world of unity and oneness, then you have to allow yourself to be loved more than you're allowing yourself to be loved right now. Get to the point that you'll let some good stuff happen to you. So how can I tell when I'm listening to the wrong voice? I'm feeling anger, guilt, and fear. What should I do? If you're in a situation where you're getting ready to talk to a person, if at all possible, be quiet. Don't say a word. Be the best thing you could say, the best thing you could do when you feel anger, guilt, and grievances coming up. That's your way of knowing you're seeing nothing correctly. You're seeing nothing correctly, and a doggone thing you're looking at right. What do you mean? I wouldn't be this angry if it wasn't true. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't be this mad. Which ought to be your clue. Something might be wrong with your perception. You're on top of the building with a rifle. That's just ridiculous. Like, I can't tell if they love me or not. If they have their hands around your throat, they don't. But it's more complicated than that. I know him when I was in junior high school. See, that's because you're not ready for him to take the hands off your throat yet. So you're going to justify keeping the fingers there. Woo! Okay. And when you're afraid you're going to be punished, the Course says, guess what? The severity of the guilt becomes so acute when you think you deserve to be punished because you're bad and you're not. Then he says your fear of retaliation from the outside follows, and he goes, the guilt becomes so acute you project it. I start to feel so guilty and angry that I got to get rid of it, y'all. I'm full of guilt. I'm full of anger. Going back to my childhood, y'all. I'm full of guilt, full of anger. You know, remember my dad killed my Easter chicken. You know what I'm saying? I'm mad. I never got over that. It was traumatic. His name was Jim. Y'all think I'm kidding. I'm not, you know. That's why my relationships didn't work for a long time. I was real chicken. So what I'm telling you right now is that the part of you that's full of all that anger, guilt, and grievances, then it says it gets so much that you project it. And so you start attacking other people, seeing them as being guilty, saying they're the problem, saying that they're the ones that's attacking you and they're the bad people. That's nothing but projected guilt, like vomiting. That's what I call it. It's like a psychic vomiting. You know, I got all these sour thoughts all inside of me, and now I need a partner, so I have somebody to project it on. When you live by yourself and you don't be in a special relationship, you ain't got nobody to blame.
That's true too.
Right. You having a miserable Saturday night, you can't say it's nobody's reason but yours. But if it's you could be entertaining me more. You know what I'm saying? So most of us like to have our personal projection screens. We call them our partners and friends. So when you wake up, you become, you know what? I want to be the reflection and the screen of and the validation of how much you loved and how much you appreciated. I'm gonna show you that it is possible to be in a friendship or a relationship with someone who's kind to you and treats you right and lets you be and doesn't try to harm you and supports who you are rather than trying to get you to act out the role that they want you to act out. I'm not going to give you a role to act out. If in a way possible, I'm going to ask you, what do you want? And then I'm going to ask you, how can I support you in a way that's not a sacrifice for me? Notice the end of that. How can I support you in a way that's not a sacrifice? Because at the point I go into sacrifice, I'm going into resentment. And so then I'm just adding fear and negativity to you and not positive energy. No. It's not like if you don't love me, somebody will. That's what I look at. Somebody's going to love me. Because how do I know that? How can I say that with absolute certainty? Because to the best of my ability, I'm trying to be loving. If I wasn't trying to be loving myself, I would doubt whether or not I could ever attract somebody that really loved me. If I really knew I loved myself, I have no doubt that I would attract somebody that really loved me because I'm so lovable and I know it. But if I have serious doubts about it, then I always wonder if anybody's going to ever love me because I got serious doubts about how lovable I am. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. There's always somebody out there for you because everybody out there is you. Or are you? Whichever the correct English is. I don't know. Which one is it? Everyone out there. Are you?
Everyone are.
Okay. All right, so take a deep breath. Shake it up. Shake it out. Shake it out. I'm winding it down. Another little light Earl Purdy talk. I know. I know. I'm going to give you the opportunity to give. And so, thank me.
Thank you so much. Always grateful to you.
If you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, I am a full-time teacher. If you want to do that, then you can just go to earlpurdy.com. And you can also use Zelle, Venmo, the Cash App, PayPal. All you need is my email address, earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. That's Purdy, Purdy. Did you hear it? Let me pass that around, brother. Thank you. Like I said, all you need is my email address, earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. If you want to do some one-on-one work with me, I'm available for what I call clarity sessions. So I take my 40 years of working with the course and working with people and using the course and what I know of the course, bring that into whatever the situation or circumstance that you're dealing with. I can give you insights and ways to look at things, but I'm going to say the same thing I said at the beginning. You have to bake the cake. You know what I mean?
Yes, you do.
I can tell you, you can't ask me a question that I can't tell you something from the course that relates to that and how would be the best way to handle it. Okay? Nothing you could come up with could I not find a part of that book that relates to that. Which will give you very clear guidance about what to do. And every time you do it, it will work when you do it. And it's always something that's easier than what you come up with. And that's the problem, is that the answers from A Course in Miracles are usually asked for people to do less, and they're accustomed to trying to come up with what is it they need to do more on their own and handling it on their own. So it takes a while to recognize that you're in a curriculum that's about you receiving a lot of help and assistance. You in a new teaching that you don't have to do anything alone, and none of your problems do you have to try to solve or go through any kind of fear in any kind of way alone. You're no longer on your own having to figure it all out. You have help. And so it's trying to get us to the point that we'll remember that we're non-physical beings having a human experience. And so therefore we have tons of non-physical help and assistance, which of course this calls the Holy Spirit. So I want to join with other people who want to have more joy and have their life more flowing and easy and harmonious, and who really want to get rid of the love and want to be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem, because I'm seeing a projection of my own mind. So the Course says all you have to do is learn how to see things differently so that your perception of things will stop getting in the way of your healing. You're not the healer. He says you're never going to make yourself happy. He says the reason why you'll never make yourself happy on your own is because you don't think high enough and highly enough of yourself. That nothing you're going to come up with is going to equal what you deserve. And that's why you stay perpetually dissatisfied, broken into by periods where it looks like things are going pretty good. He says that's the seesaw we get on, right? And he's saying, and so the Course says, let me say it to you again. You can't make yourself happy. You ought to know that by now. When he says happy, he says, I'm not talking about happiness that comes and goes. He says that kind of happiness, the Course says, is a special form of fear you like. He says, what we call joy and love is just fear we like. I thought, wow, this book is so deep. He says, if it's truly happy, he says, if it's truly happy, then there are no gaps in it. It never changes. It's permanent, and it continually appears to expand. So it's no such thing as I love you this morning and I didn't love you this evening. You know, I was calling for your love this morning and I'm calling for your love this evening. That's why I'm in my relationship with you, to be able to let all the blocks to love, get rid of all those blocks to love, through being taught how to do that, so that the love that's already there can come through me and I don't have to do anything. I don't want to feel like when I get into a relationship, I'm just going to another job. Which is the way it used to feel in observing a lot of people. I'm working on my relationship. I'm working on my relationship. What are you doing? I'm working on my relationship. That's what I'm doing. It's like, you know, that's the sound of the men working on the chain. I got my lunch bucket. Where you going? I'm going home to work on my relationship. And if I'm lucky, I get a 15-minute break. The Course is saying, no. Love is joy. Love is happiness. It extends, it expands. At first, it's going to come to you in glimpses. Just like before the shower really gets heavy, there's first, doop, the first little drop, doop, the next little drop, and you go, oh. It's sprinkling. Y'all know that, right? Yeah. Then before you see you say, oh my God, I got to get up before there's a downpour. The Course in Miracles says that's exactly the way your good is going to start coming. That love is going to start coming to you. Bloop. Oh, that good. That wonderful loving experience. Oh, bloop, bloop. And so you have to be in a place where you can receive it without fear. Mm-hmm. And that's what it teaches you how to do, because you don't know how to do that yet. So if you want to have a one-on-one session with me, it's called a clarity session. Go to my website and look under clarity session tab, and you can self-book a session right there. I've also been a soul purpose astrologer and numerologist for 40 plus years. It's what got me on my spiritual path, actually. And if you'd like to work with me in that capacity, I'm also available for that too, for those who are open-minded in that way. Okay? So Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, Earl Purdy page on Facebook. We do hardcore Course in Miracles on Thursdays at 7 p.m. And then on Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time here in Denver, I do it in front of mostly a live audience. In front of mostly a live teacher. So it's 1555 Race Street. So you can come in Denver and you can come in person. That's 1555 Race Street. I think that's it. Other than to say there's a profound sense of gratitude. Did they kind of help a little bit to have them two jokers right there? It made a big difference, didn't it? Yeah, because that's in a sense that helps me. So what I'm doing is like he says, like there's a part of me called the ego. He says it's that sure its purpose is fear. That there's a part of me that just likes to be afraid for one reason or another. It just does. You know, and the Course in Miracles says, so it's true, its purpose is fear, which is separation. Then the Course says, then there's another part of you that's absolutely sure that its purpose is love and freedom and peace. No doubt about it whatsoever. He says, but you are the one in the middle. Some days I side with my fear, and I call that a really bad day. Right? And then some days I side with the same loving part of me, and I go, you know, today was much better than it usually is with me. That's another way of saying, I was much more saner today than I usually am. You know, and so what you want to do is understand that forgiveness is you being willing to give yourself a break when you do sometimes slip over into this side that's afraid. That's what forgiveness is. Seeing that this side is calling for love. This side is scared. Calling for love. I'm scared. I'm calling for help. I know it may take the form of anger sometimes, or looking like I didn't keep my word in some way, or I did something that you would call wrong. But it's still my call for love. It was coming from my fear. It's coming from my own insanity. See, that's what I'm learning. I'm learning how to give Earl a break. Since I'm not him. I can manipulate him. And take Earl, I can turn him into a better man. See what I'm saying? Because he's just an idea in my mind.
You've already got a fix-it project.
You see what I'm saying? And then I got the Course telling me the kind of thoughts I should give myself in order to have the best type of experience I could ever imagine. This the whole book is okay. It's all about your perception and how you're seeing things. So you don't even have to figure that out. I'm going to give you some of the most loving thoughts. As a matter of fact, these thoughts are so loving that most of them you won't hear it first. It'll be too loving and you just go unconscious because it's just too good. It's like trying to get away from somebody, you know, because they're just being too loving. And there's more than you can handle. And because there's more than you can handle, you think they're not telling the truth. You know what I'm saying? If I say something about you that you don't believe about yourself, your first impression might be that I'm being insincere. You might go, oh, I bet you say that to everybody. You better hope I do. That means it's true. So my job is to see you as deserving more than you may even think you do. Y'all follow that? Because when you're feeling bad about yourself, you're usually not feeling as bad about yourself. I'm not feeling that way about you usually, right? So that means when you're feeling afraid and angry or feeling you're upset, I don't want you to feel guilty about that. Because the last thing I want you to do is to feel guilty, because if you feel guilty, there'll be a fear of punishment and some form of retaliation. And then at some point you might be tempted to project on me, to get angry at me. Because the guiltier I get, the more likely I am to get angry at you. If I'm feeling really guilty, I need to make you guilty too. Because I don't want to feel just like I'm the only one guilty, because I'm feeling so guilty. So if I can make you a little bit more guilty, that'll make me a little less guilty. That's the game the Course in Miracles says we play. Yeah, I'm innocent based on how much more guilt I can make you be, guilty I can make you be than me. And what we're doing is reinforcing each other's request for punishment without even realizing it. Because the more I make you feel guilty, the more you're going to think you deserve punishment, something's wrong with you. And the more you try to make me feel guilty, if I buy into it, I'm going to think that I deserve punishment, I'm not enough. So we're actually using our relationship to take each other deeper into the very thing that we want to let go of, which is the fear, which is the guilt. Wow. So take a breath right now. Close your eyes, if you don't mind. How can you tell this week? How can you tell if you're listening to the wrong voice? If you're listening to the wrong voice, you will experience guilt. If you're listening to the wrong voice, you will experience guilt. If you're listening to the wrong voice, you will experience guilt. If you're listening to the wrong voice, what does that mean? That I shouldn't change my ways? No, it's okay to get lovingly corrected. Spirit will lovingly correct you. If you're making mistakes, and doing what you might think is something harmful to you or someone else, Spirit can correct you. Spirit can correct you, but can correct you in a way that you will not feel that need to feel so guilty that you're going to turn around and attack somebody else or hurt somebody else in your perception again. Would you be willing to have all your mistakes corrected? Would you be willing to have every mistake, even the mistakes you think you've done in the past, would you be willing to have those mistakes corrected? Would you be willing to have the consequences of your mistakes removed? Not only to have the mistake corrected, but to have the consequences of the mistake corrected. Would you be open to that? Okay, this is one of the rules if you want to have it happen. Ready? You must be willing to not know how it's going to happen. In other words, you have to be willing for it to happen, even if you don't know how it could happen. Are you willing to have it happen, even if you don't know how it could happen? Would you be willing to let go of your need to think you need to understand stuff as if your understanding is a powerful contribution to the truth? Your understanding isn't a powerful contribution to the truth. Your understanding doesn't make the truth true. So your understanding is not necessary for you to receive the benefits. You can receive the benefits of something without understanding it. You can receive the benefits of me without understanding me. Are you willing for that to start happening to save you some time? Are you willing to receive answers and love even when you think you don't deserve it? Are you willing to have happiness and love even when you don't think you deserve it? Yeah. That's easier. That's easier than you trying to get yourself to the point that you think you deserve it before you can have it. Cut out the middleman. You can be as crappy as you are and still have something good happening to you. Yeah. You can be as selfish as you think you could possibly be and still have love want to heal you and nurture you and take care of you. So in order to have that happen in your life, you have to be willing to at least conceive of the idea. So that's what I did today. I introduced some ideas to you from a course. And those ideas are going to manifest. I promise you. Thanks, my dear companion. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Woo! Hugs are available to anyone that dares. Hey, don't forget, watch this at least 4 times. 4 times, that's the number of foundation. It's 4 times. So you want to make sure it's the repetition, it's the remembering, and the repetition.
Thank you, Earl.
Oh, thank you, baby. Oh, Lord.